Okay, we're recording.
Well, I welcome all of you as you have turned on this YouTube devotion. This morning is just a simple devotion that I want to share, and as Jesus spoke in parables, I thought I'd tell you one of my favorite stories. And so it begins with a very wise man. As he was older, every day he would sit outside of his gas station and he would sit in his rocking chair and he would wait to greet motorists as they passed by. One day his granddaughter knelt down at the foot of his chair and she slowly passed the day with him. And as they sat and watched the people come and go, a tall man who surely had to be a tourist, since they knew everyone in the town, began looking around as if he were checking out for a place to live, as he was new to the area. And the stranger walked up and he said, "So what kind of town is this that we're in?" And the older gentleman slowly turned to the man and he replied, "Well, what kind of town are you from?" The tourist said, "Well, in the town that I'm from, everyone is very critical of each other. The neighbors all gossip about everyone, and it's a real negative place to live. I'm sure glad to be leaving," he said, "and it's not a very cheerful place." The man in the chair looked at the stranger, and he said, "You know, that's just how this town is." Well, an hour or so later, a family that was also passing through stopped for gas. And the car slowly turned in and it rolled to a stop in front of where the older gentleman and his little granddaughter were sitting. The mother jumped out of the car with the two small children and she asked where the restrooms were. The man in the chair pointed to a small bent-up sign that was barely hanging on a nail. And it was on the other side of the station, and the father stepped out of the car. And he also asked the man, "Is this a pretty good town to live in?" The man in the chair replied, "Well, what kind of town are you from? How is it there?" And the father looked at him and he said, "Well, the town that I'm from, everyone is very close and they're very willing to lend their neighbor a helping hand. There's always a hello and a thank you, and everywhere you go. I really hate to leave that town. I feel almost like it's my fault and we're leaving our family." The older gentleman turned to the father and gave him a warm smile. He said, "You know, that's a lot like our small town." And then the family returned to the car and said their thank yous, waved goodbye, and drove away. Now, after the family was off in the distance a little bit, the granddaughter looked up at her grandfather and she said, "Grandpa, how come when the first man came up and asked about what kind of town we lived in, you told him it was a terrible place to live? And then when the second family came into town, you told him it was a wonderful place to live?" And the grandfather looked lovingly down at his little granddaughter, wondering what he should say. And with his steel blue eyes with a smile, he said, "Honey, no matter where you move, you take your own attitude with you. And that's what makes it terrible or wonderful." You and I have an opportunity as we live here to make this a wonderful place, if that be our attitude. Or we can, as the first stranger to town, complain and gripe and gossip. And then it isn't such a great place to be. The choice is ours. Much of our life is about our attitude. And so as we begin the day, may we put on that attitude that brings joy and love and peace to everyone about us. May you have a blessed day.